Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater SoundCheck. This time out, a new frequency-dependent envelope shaping plugin from Sonnox. Let's get started. Today we're checking out Envolution, a very interesting new plugin from Sonnox that allows you to shape the transients in a signal. Now this allows you to do a variety of different things to your sound, everything from increasing the punch, to bringing up the presence, to bringing out more detail. It really allows you to go in and micro-shape your sounds, or you can broadly shape them as well to make them fit into a mix better without using EQ. Today I'll be showing you Envolution running in Pro Tools 12.3. I've got the plugin loaded up here, and I've actually got it on a variety of different drum tracks inside this mix. So I've got it on the kick drum, I've got it on the snare drum, the hi-hat, the toms, the overheads, and I've also got some on the overall signal as well. So what I'll do is play back this track with Envolution active, and then I'll bypass all of them simultaneously so you can hear what it's doing to the sound. So here's the sound with the plugin. And now here it is without the plugin. You can hear it's making a dramatic difference in the presence and the detail that's in those drum sounds. Let's listen to it one more time, and I'll bring the plugin in and out so you can hear the difference in context. Remember, you're not hearing any EQ, no compression, no other processing. All I'm doing is changing the envelope shaping on our different instruments. So the plugin is very simple to operate. It comes with a number of presets, which we'll check out in a second, but let's take a tour of the controls and what they do. So within the plugin window, we have a large knob here for setting the level of our transients, and we can bypass the transient section. Now the transient is the first part of the signal, the attack of a drum, the pick of a guitar, when the hammer strikes a string inside a piano. Those are the kind of things that this section of the plugin is going to be working on bringing out. Raising those will tend to add more detail, a little bit more presence to your sound, almost like you're boosting the high end. By smoothing those out, you'll round the sound out, give it a softer attack, a little smoother attack, less detail, and a little warmer sound. In addition to the main transient control, we also have profile controls here, and those determine how the plugin will react to incoming transients. The attack control sets how fast the plugin will react, so you can set it to allow some of the transient to pass through before it starts processing. The hold control determines how long the effect will hold on before it starts to release. The release control sets how long it takes for the plugin to let go of the transient as it's passing through. And finally, we have a sensitivity control, and this determines how sensitive the plugin will be to incoming transients. You can set it so that it ignores low-level transients, or you can turn it up so that all of the transients will be processed. By clicking the frequency control, we can take a look at what's happening inside this profile. The transient section of Envolution has two different operating modes, focus and tilt. In focus mode, we're basically operating a bandpass filter, so the transients are only being looked at through that bandpass filter. With the tilt mode active, we're actually doing more of shelf-style processing. The bottom of the plugin is where the sustain portion of our notes is effective. Now the sustain portion of the note is the part that rings on after the transient. You can use the plugin to shorten that or to smooth that out. So we've got a main control that sets the level of what's happening with sustain, and we can bypass this section of the effect as well. We have a hold control that sets how long the effect will hold on to the sustain portion. The attack control that determines how much of the attack will be let through, and then release. Again, those two controls are very much like a compressor or a gate. Just as with the transient section of the plugin, we can choose to look at what's happening with the sustain portion. And again, we have focus and tilt modes available here. On the right-hand side of the plugin, we have an output control, and this sets the output level. Using the Envolution plugin can actually raise your level quite a bit, so this allows you to balance the input versus the output levels. We have a mix control for setting the dry signal versus the wet signal, and a warmth control. Now the warmth control can be used in two different ways. First of all, turning it up adds distortion into the signal, which will really warm it up and add some richness and harmonic content as well. If you bring that all the way up to 100%, you're basically setting a ceiling on the plugin, and now we can push the output level up. We won't raise the output that's feeding into Pro Tools, we'll be adding even more distortion and staying within that ceiling. The difference control is very interesting because it allows you to just monitor what's happening inside the plugin itself, the actual process signals. So you can listen to that and hear what transients are being affected, for example. So you can use that to really fine-tune the controls because you're only hearing the process sound. Now let's check out some of the presets that come with Envolution. This will give you an idea of what the plugin can do. So we'll begin with the kick drum solo, then I'll bring the plugin in. We'll listen to some of the presets and also listen to some of those different settings so you can hear just what's happening inside the plugin. So here's our dry kick drum. Open up the plug-in, and I'm going to set it up for a drum preset. In this particular preset, the difference switch is actually engaged, so all that we're hearing is the process transients inside the plugin. You can hear that you can really use the plugin to shape the entire envelope for the signal. It's not just the attack portion, also the sustain portion. Here we're cutting off the sustain in the signal, and we're really emphasizing that attack. I think this gives you an idea of just how powerful the Envolution plugin is. You can totally shape the sound of your signals, no EQ, no compression. It's a very efficient process, very easy to set up and very easy to use. We don't have to use Envolution on just individual tracks. We could also use it on an entire drum mix, as I'll show you here. Or you could use it on your whole song mix, or use it during mastering. To show you what I mean, I'll bypass Envolution on the individual instruments and just use it on the aux send that's the overall drum sound. Here's our dry signal, and then I'll bring in the overall processing using Envolution. It's not a real intense effect. I'm using it to add some subtle detail and to tighten up the sound. When you combine that with the Envolution processing I'm doing on the individual tracks, we get a great drum tone. So we'll begin with all of the drum processing turned off, and then I'll bring it all back in simultaneously, including the individual Envolution plugins, as well as the overall Envolution plugin on the overall drum mix. So we'll begin with everything bypassed. Now I'll bring in the overall Envolution processing. And finally, I'll turn on all of the individual Envolution plugins. It's really increasing the presence and the detail in those drums. But we don't have to use Envolution on just drums. We could also use it on bass. So I'll open up my bass tracks here. I've got an Envolution plugin inserted. We'll go ahead and mute our drums, bring the bass back in, we'll bypass that. In this case, I'm using it for subtle shaping, bringing out some more detail in the attack, bringing out a little bit more top end, and tightening up the bottom just a little bit. It's a subtle effect, but it shows you that you don't have to use Envolution really heavy-handedly. You can actually use it subtly, and it still enhances the signal very nicely. When you combine the shaping on the drums along with the shaped bass, you get a great result. In the short time I've been using Envolution from Sonnox, I've become a major fan. It's so powerful for bringing out detail, presence, and punch in your signals. It's really fun to use, and it allows you to open tracks in ways that you just can't with EQ or compression. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater SoundCheck. I'm Mitch Gallagher.